Welcome to the Magical Salon, where two regular people, Amanda and James, explore mystical ideas and big questions. From books to pop culture, if it's a doorway to something deeper, we're probably into it. We're not experts, and maybe you aren't either, but that's kind of the point.
And we're back with another episode of the Magical Salon, live on video for the first time ever. What do you have to say for yourself about that?
Not much.
Are you excited about that?
Very much so.
You don't seem it. You don't seem it at all, actually. You seem like you're being held against your will.
Yeah, this is not a hostage video. I just don't like being on video. Which is funny because I have a TikTok account.
Yeah, what? You don't like being on video? Why do we what's the point of all this then? So, anyways, this week's episode, what are we diving into? What are you?
I thought you had an intro.
I do have an intro. This week, we are going to explore the enduring question, which is, are we alone in the universe? From ancient myths to modern scientific inquiry, we examine humanity's fascination with extraterrestrial life. Does our search represent a deep human fear of being alone? What do you think?
We should get you a teleprompter.
Well, yeah, I wrote this in too small font. I can't read it.
Yeah, it's microscopic.
Yeah, it's really hard to read.
At least it fits on one page.
It is really hard to read.
Well, for starters, I'm Amanda, your UFO enthusiast.
Oh, and I am James, your ancient alien theorist.
Okay. I like that.
Thank you. So what do you have to say?
About
do you
what?
think we're alone in the universe?
No, and I never have thought that, but I feel that the life forms that are out there, i.e. extraterrestrials, most likely they would be in a form that would be completely unrecognizable to us. Therefore, I think the way that we conceptualize it, because people can only conceive of an alien that looks pretty anthropomorphic. It's a green person, but it's still like shaped like a human and still kind of acts like a human. Even it's not that unknowable in terms of imagination. And I don't think that's what it's like.
Well, I mean, so kind of two things. So regarding aliens existing, one thing that I was looking up is like how many people believe in aliens, and apparently 47% of adults, this is like from an article, believe aliens have visited Earth already. That means not even that there's some alien a gajillion light years away, they believe they're already visiting. And then 65% of US Americans or adults, whatever, said that they do believe life exists out there. Not necessarily that we've been like visited, which I just thought was interesting because that seems high. Like, I guess now the government is kind of like acknowledging aliens, or at least acknowledging UFOs. And now it's called UAPs now, I've learned. Unidentified aerial phenomenon or something. No, anomalous phenomenon, which is just unidentified things, but they haven't said they're aliens.
So I guess they changed the name because it's more of a blanket term. It doesn't have to be a flying object per se. It's just an unidentifiable thing that you can't place.
Correct. Yeah.
So do you think that we've been visited already?
Well, that's one of the things I want to get into because, in my opinion, to your earlier discussion on like what it would even look like. So obviously I'm the resident ancient alien theorist here, and funny enough, somehow that's on the History Channel. I don't know why. That's not historical, really, as far as I'm concerned. That's just wild conjecture.
It depends on how you look at it. If you believe that aliens have visited, then yeah, it is historical.
Well, and I think that's why that show was so interesting to me, because they basically they posit that aliens visited a long time ago, and like the Egyptians and the Vedas, like in ancient Hindu scriptures say that there's like floating palaces, and even in like Christian, like Abrahamic iconography, there's a lot of chariots of fire coming from the sky or angels descending from the sky, you could say that's religion, that's aliens visiting or angels visiting. The ancient alien people say those aren't angels, they're actually aliens, but the ancients didn't have a concept for it or a word for it. So it's like a perspective thing. At that point in time, that chariot from the sky, it wasn't a chariot, it was a spaceship. But they didn't have spaceships, they didn't even have flight, so they didn't know what to call it. So they just used the words that they had, which I think is kind of an interesting point. Like, this is something that people have talked about for a long time. Even just the idea of people descending from the sky, like, what is that then? If it's not an angel, then what would it have been that they were seeing?
Well, it's interesting to think about in light of even now, we're still only thinking about aliens within the construct of our own experiences and language. And at least for me, I feel like aliens are pretty big culturally. There's been a lot of movies about them. There's obviously Area 51. There's just, I don't know, people are really into it. People love a good government conspiracy theory. But even still, and that's kind of what I'm saying, whereas, like, I don't know. It kind of gets, I don't know if I think they've visited or not.
Well, I think one thing that is also interesting is the idea of them being alien in terms of appearance, or potentially just not even, they might not even be a physical entity. Like, it could be interdimensional, so it can like blip in and out. Like, I think we've talked about on an earlier episode actually about how aliens like could come in, and from our perspective it would be like, what the heck is this thing? And it's just a higher dimensional being that is an alien, like, kind of coming in. So it wouldn't be like a 3D object that you and I would see just like walking around the street, which I think is kind of interesting. I will say the other thing, kind of on the government thing of acknowledging or not acknowledging, they haven't said anything about aliens, for the record. Like, I was looking this up. They've not released anything saying aliens exist. What they have said is, we acknowledge that there have been unidentified aerial phenomenon that we don't know the cause, but that doesn't mean it's alien. It could just be Russia, or it could be a different country. They have a new drone technology or something. Who knows? It doesn't necessarily mean it's an
But
alien.
surely, I mean, all these, like, I don't know, surely there's a way to figure that out. And there's a way to cross-reference the different technology that different countries and stuff have. I'm sure they already did that and drew a blank, and thus they labeled it as a UFO. But I think the interesting part is, and why the question of have they visited us is difficult, is because people lump aliens into this monolithic group. But it's possible there's like multiple different groups of aliens, one of which maybe has visited Earth, but that doesn't mean they're the only one out there.
That is interesting, because on that point, there are a lot of different alien types. Like, I don't want to call them species, but people have species of aliens, right? There's like the grays, which are the short gray aliens. Then there's like the green ones that you always see. Martian was in like Looney Tunes, right? That guy. That Dark Skies movie we watched a while ago had aliens that were kind of interdimensional. And that was a cool movie because their take on aliens was basically, these are like interdimensional beings. They don't exist on this plane. You can't touch them, but they can do whatever they want on this plane. And that was like the whole thing in the movie, was they were like, yeah, for whatever reason, they're following you and your family, but there's nothing you can do. Like, they are so beyond us. We can't even see them, and they can still interact with us, though, which I thought was kind of a trippy thought.
Well, that's kind of how the aliens are portrayed in the book series that I'm reading now. The Octavia Butler Xenogenesis trilogy is what it was originally called. Now it's called the Lilith Brood trilogy. And the aliens are just like very, very different from humans. Not only in terms of appearance, but in terms of capacity, how they age, they like can share and transfer information very differently. But then you also think, like, well, what if an alien was just like an amoeba or something? Like, it could also be very small. And we might not even recognize it for what it is.
Well, I mean, I think from a science perspective, that would be an alien, like an
It would.
alien bacteria. Like that's life. I guess, does that make it alien? I guess that's another question. Like what if we found a human on Mars? Would that be an alien then? Or like it looked exactly like us? Does it have to look fundamentally different to be an alien? Or does it just have to originate from someplace other than here to be an
That's, I
alien?
think, what extraterrestrial means. It means it's not of Earth. So it has to have an origin separate from Earth. In terms of that's an interesting idea though. Like, what if it did look? Yeah, if we found a person on Mars that looked exactly like us, and you're like, where did you come from? But then it'd be kind of creepy because it's like, what if they're just like pretending to look like us? But then it makes me wonder the role of mass delusion in all of this, which is an interesting thought because on the one hand, it's like, okay, if everyone has a similar experience of these aliens, whether it's the grays or the three lights on the UFO, does that mean that there's consensus across the board? Or does that mean that somehow hearing about these things like influences how I'm perceiving it? And thus it's more like a shared delusion than it is fact.
Well, I like that you're mentioning that because one of the guys that came up when I was doing some research is some French something or other called Jacques Vallée. And basically he posits that aliens and UFO they say more about human consciousness, to your point, like as a phenomenon and how people grapple with the unknown or the unexplained and what you attribute it to. Because using the ancient aliens example, there's always been stories of people seeing things in the sky or wondering what else is out there. Whatever you classify it as is kind of irrelevant. It just kind of changes through the ages. You kind of adapt what you call it based on where you're at that point in time. So people still see unknown things that happen in the sky. Now we call them aliens. Maybe 300 years ago, they called it something else. 2,000 years ago, they called it angels. Who knows? But I do think it's kind of interesting because he was saying it's more about the culture that you live in is kind of shaping how you view these things or even what you think of them to be. Well, on to I think one thing we could talk on though is we've recently watched the movie Contact, which is from the 90s, I believe, with Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey.
I didn't like that.
You didn't like the movie, or you didn't like Matthew McConaughey in it?
I don't really have an opinion about him, but I didn't like the movie. And I don't remember Dark Skies either. I'm not sure if I watched that.
You definitely did. But anyways, Contact is interesting because it's slow. I will say that. It is pretty slow. And it kind of suffers from being a little too long. Like they could have trimmed some stuff. But I will say it focuses on somebody that works at SETI, which is literally the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And that does exist. It is a real thing. It's a government org. And in 1977, this is true now, not based on the movie, there was a signal that was received that's called the WOW signal. And basically this guy at Ohio State found this signal that was like really concentrated like through space, and it was deliberate. Like they basically were like it had to originate from some sort of intelligence, and it went for like a couple 70 seconds and then it stopped and they've never found it again.
What kind of noise was it?
I mean, I'm not sure. Like
an electronic noise, like a sound a body would make?
No, that's the thing. And that's why Contact is interesting, because these are like radio static from the galaxy that they're listening to. So it's nothing comprehensible.
So it's like the ham radio for the galaxy?
Yeah. And it's like not, and that's what they talk on in Contact, right? Like they're getting like, it's just like a radio message that they're then deciphering as being, oh, this is like an alien code. And at first they're like, it's not alien, it could be anything. And then they're like, oh, it's intelligent. Like it's actually sending stuff in Morse code so we can decipher and figure out what it's saying. And in the movie, it ends up being like blueprints to building some interdimensional portal thing, which one thing I did think was cool about the movie is it grappled a lot with two things really. Belief, like science versus faith, kind of. Like a lot of people were disturbed by this existence of aliens because in the movie it's like a public thing, so there's mayhem, and it kind of breaks people's minds a little bit. Like if you knew aliens existed, would you go to work the next day? Would society just collapse, I guess?
Well, I think that's the rationale behind why the government doesn't tell you anything, genuinely. If they knew that there was for sure not only extraterrestrials, but an extraterrestrial threat, I don't believe they would tell us until the last possible minute. Because they would want things to continue as normal and get, I guess it depends on the nature of the threat, you know?
Well, and that's one of the things in contact, because their whole thing is, how do we know the signal that we're receiving is friendly? Like, why are you sending back to this signal? Why are we trying to build this alien device? Like, we don't know what it is. It could be a bomb, like it could be a weapon. We have no idea. Why would we build this thing? You're just taking them on their word as being nice, benevolent aliens that want to just say hi, what's up?
I mean, I think it has more to do with human curiosity and quest for knowledge at the expense of human life, sometimes even. There's like such a, I mean, it's just like the whole idea, I mean, behind the Golden Voyager records, like Carl Sagan and his team. Oh, we're just gonna like chuck these golden records out into space and it's gonna have sounds of Earth, languages of Earth, photos of like a body and like anatomy or something. But then if you just think about it, like, I don't know. I mean, is that really something that you want to be sending out into the universe? And maybe they did a risk case scenario on it and thought the risk was low. But again, you don't know anything about extraterrestrials, so how could you possibly gauge the risk level accurately?
I mean, yeah, I don't think you can until it's too late, which that does get me into one of the things that I was kind of looking up, but I'd already read a book about, which it's called The Three Body Problem, which that's a series. Well, it's a Netflix series now, but it's also a book series. But one of the books in this series is called, or it's a trilogy, is called The Dark Forest. And the entire idea of the Dark Forest is, let's say there are aliens out there. Why don't we see them? Why aren't we getting signals from them? And the dark forest theory is that it's a dangerous world out there. You don't want to be broadcasting your signal. You don't want people to know you're alive because then they can come and annihilate you if they're more advanced than you, which it kind of goes into one of those, like, I think it's Fermi's paradox, which is if there's aliens out there, the universe is really old. Like humanity on the grand scale of things is very small. So why haven't we seen aliens yet, basically? There's so many planets. Why wouldn't there be aliens yet? And one of the reasons that people posit is there are aliens, but they're like this dark forest thing. They're trying to hide on purpose because they don't want to get demolished by whatever else is out there.
Well, humans have only been capable of space travel for not very long at all. So we got on the moon like 1960s. So it's been like 65 years or so. That's not really very long in the grand scheme of anything,
No.
let alone in the scheme of the universe. So in my mind, it's not that weird that we haven't encountered anything. But it's also possible that just with the time lags of things, you know, that could both prohibit and incite violence between planets because we sent the golden record out. I mean, who knows? I mean, in 20 years, somebody will show up. I mean,
Yeah. Well, the thing that is interesting is the Fermi's paradox has a lot of like things and theories underneath it. So one of them is the great filter theory, which is basically saying like it's really one of the thoughts of why there aren't aliens is it's really hard to evolve. Intelligence is very rare. Like that's kind of like putting humans on a pedestal as being super important, special snowflakes on the grand scale of the universe. And so it's,
But aren't they also testing to see if it's intelligent life that we could also actually interact with? Because there could be intelligent life that we just could not interact with, like an amoeba. I mean, I don't know anything about amoebas, but something like very small that is very intelligent, but we would never be able to communicate with it.
well, I guess it depends how you're defining intelligence, but like their theory is if you have to get to a certain stage of civilization to even begin space travel, right? So they're kind of saying like, we didn't just go from caveman to space travel. Like a turtle isn't going to just, it doesn't matter how smart it is. It needs to build a lot of infrastructure to get to the point where it can then start traveling interdimensionally and going or intergalactically. But the great filter theory is kind of, it's cool and scary because it's like either we've passed the stage, and they call it a filter because things don't get through it, right? So either we've passed the stage and we're now really smart and like we're way more advanced than most things, or we haven't gotten to the filter yet, which means at some point in civilization, you kind of run into something that happens where you just can't exist anymore. You could see that in humanity because we might nuke ourselves into oblivion. At any moment that could happen. And then there's no more humans anymore for other aliens to interact with, right? Or the AI singularity. We all become robots and all humans are dead, but some computer banks are floating around somewhere. I don't know.
Or we just ruin the planet and it becomes inhospitable.
Well, yeah. But again, then it's like the filter being you evolve too quickly or like you just can't get over certain hurdles.
Okay, but then the question becomes, can anyone ever get over those hurdles? Like statistically speaking, because it would have to be statistically based because nobody would have any actual information to go on. Like, is it just that you will fail once intelligent life gets to a certain stage? Is it just part of it that you have to fail in the way that just things are? Or is there actually a possibility that you could succeed? And if so, like what would that even look like?
I mean, they don't know, right? They're all theories, but I think it's an interesting theory because, like, you could see, like, if you're going to become a spacefaring civilization, you're going to need to get technology advanced at a certain point. Well, the con of that technology is you can now destroy your entire species with it. So does that happen? Like, that's one of the thoughts, right? It's not saying you can't get past it, but it is saying humanity then would be coming up potentially against the filter where it's like, okay, you've got technology that can destroy everything. Are you going to like figure your stuff out and be nice people and like work together? Or are you going to use this for bad? In which case the intelligence is not able to survive. And that's the end of your species, I guess. The other theory that came up relating to Fermi's paradox is the zoo hypothesis, which I think you would like because you were talking about zoochosis or whatever. And I mean, it's pretty much what it sounds like, where the theory is aliens do exist and they're just so much more advanced than us that we're a novelty planet that they just come and visit. Like, oh, let's go see what the donkeys are doing today. And they just visit us.
The donkeys.
Well, I mean, you know, which is an interesting thought, I think. Do you feel like you're being watched by aliens in a zoo?
I mean, I don't think I would know if I was. I think the issue is just there's a plethora of opportunities or options. There's never going to be clarity. So I don't know that I believe that over anything else.
I mean, that's why it's funny though, because again, these are theories and like paradoxes that really smart people are coming up with, but it's about aliens.
But it's like, I could have came up with that. Zoo theory? That's like basic. Anyone could come up with that. And then somebody gets that, like, oh, Dr. So-and-so credited with popularizing zoo theory.
Well, yeah, you didn't come up with it.
Stupid.
I mean, I'm just saying it is interesting. And I think they do sort of talk about that in Contact as well. The alien species being beyond our comprehension, basically. Because at the end, this isn't really a spoiler, but like it is a spoiler, but you're not going to watch it anyways, probably because it is long.
Let's just not talk about Contact anymore.
Well, I thought the one thing I thought was interesting is the aliens were like interdimensional, basically. Like they were not human, like at all. So the only way they could even communicate with humans is they had to like pretend to be like they basically made a simulated environment that Jodie Foster visited. And then they like talked to her in that environment because they were like, if you saw us and what we had, it would like literally blow your mind. Kind of like H.P. Lovecraft. Like it's we're so beyond you that you would have no clue like what was even going, which I do think is kind of a cool thought. What about you? You, I know, have a history of aliens. You used to be a deep alien researcher in your youth.
That's true, I was. I mean, I had these folders where I would compile information. It might have been file folders, but at the very least, there was a paper folder in which I kept and compiled all my notes, mostly about UFOs. Like, I would just do all this research on the internet, and then, like, the early days of the internet, for me anyway, and write all these notes down. And I don't really know, I can't really remember what I was trying to parse other than I found it fun to catalog these things and to like search for patterns. And I don't know, I guess I've just always been kind of a curious person. Like I'm not really one to accept what other people tell me. I'm more so I need to discover it on my own.
Skeptical. That's good. It's very scientific of you. So you had a folder where did you ever see aliens? Like, did you see it your own UFO that you had to chronicle? Like when you saw it, where it was?
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
No. I grew in like suburbia, so there was no UFOs there. Whenever I see them, they're like always usually in like more rural areas. They're not like in a city, really.
Well, didn't you also say though that you got like kicked off a website once or something? Like you were
I did.
you were on an alien website.
Yeah, and I don't remember. I was in elementary school. I don't remember what the website was, but it had something to do with aliens and my quest for learning about aliens. And I think I was fact checking or referencing something. And I just like clicked on this website and then a pop up came up and it's just said something along the lines of you're not authorized to access this content. And then like it kicked me off the website and then I could never find it again. I could never find the website ever again. Certainly could never find that message again. Even after I searched for it, right after I had found it, like it seems suspicious.
Does it feel like you missed out then? Like that could have been it. That could have been the proof that we all needed. Were you bummed when it happened? You were like, no, I was so close.
I think I was more scared than anything else.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I mean, the proof could be out there. Whether it's on a website or on just like some random person's camera, if you think about just all, especially now in the internet, and we have all these technologies and ways to catalog and record information. I just remember reading this like really long article about this guy who like lived, or he still lives near Area 51, and apparently there's like this mountain near it. So he was like up there taking photos of the base. Like, you can't really see anything, but I guess they were doing something and he got in trouble and they like seized everything, not just his camera. They like went to his house and seized all of his property. And he's like, there's nothing on here. Like, I don't have anything. But they, like, once something gets seized by the government, you're never getting it back. It doesn't matter how many times you go to court. Like, you're not seeing that stuff ever again. But it's very suspicious, right? Because it's like, what are they hiding?
I mean, I will say I was also very interested in Area 51 as a child because it just sounded so cool. Like this secret government base that they don't acknowledge, that doesn't exist. Maybe aliens exist there, maybe they don't. And then
they'll shoot you on sight if you get too close.
I was like really into looking up Area 51 stuff specifically because it was like, yeah, like it's a military base on US soil, but it's like, we literally will shoot you if you trespass. There's always videos that I would see where like people are trying to like sneak in or sneak around, and like armed Humvees and stuff drive up and they're like, get out of here. What are you doing here? You can't be here. So there's like a lot of mystique around it for that reason. And then I know like from the internet perspective, wasn't it like during COVID, there was a thing where people were going to rally and storm Area 51?
I was actually going to mention
I
that
wonder what
too.
happened to that. Did it ever happen?
I thought it did. I don't know, actually. Because people were getting concerned that a lot of people were going to be injured or potentially killed.
Well, nothing bad happened, but
I don't know if that's true or not.
I do remember, though, Area 51 was super interesting to me because, like, it's very secret. So, like, I was watching, like, a documentary on it, and it was like, yeah, if you're going to be on Area 51, you have to, like, go through all these background checks. They, like, bus you in. Like, it's very insulated. I don't know. I just thought it was cool.
But who even gets access to the base is my question, because, and he could be lying, but Obama said that he had never seen aliens and had not heard evidence. So if you believe that, there's also an argument to be made that they could still exist, but like he wasn't privy to the knowledge, which would mean that like SETI and some of these other groups are working sort of very long-term, very, very hidden beneath multiple levels of the bureaucracy, which I do think is a possibility, just because, I mean, just it seems like the nature of a potential threat might require that.
I mean, yeah, I will say, like, not that you can really take this with anything, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, I think not even that long ago, Trump posted some AI tweet or something with him walking with an alien. Like, did you not see that? It was like a rift alien.
I can't follow everything that man does.
Nobody
Disturbs
can.
me too much.
Nobody can. But my point being, it's interesting to think about because, like, had that happened under any other circumstance, like a president posting a photo of them with aliens, that would be like front page news. But there's a lot going on. So, you know, it kind of falls by the wayside. One thing I will say, though, that it does raise a question is with the technology everywhere, everybody, we have a camera. Your phone is a camera. Everybody's got cameras. Why aren't, if aliens do exist, why don't we have like high quality footage of them? And if you do see footage of aliens, it's always blurry as hell. You can't see anything. Like, why is that?
That's an interesting question because, again, when I was compiling all my research, this was many years ago, and by nature, every photograph was grainy. So it wasn't really a matter of, oh, you just like did a bad job of taking this or it's not good equipment. But now, yeah, you would think. So I guess what I'm saying is I haven't really looked now to see what, but now there's all this AI stuff. So how could you even tell the difference? I mean, it's possible that they don't want to be on video. Like, to your point, if they are completely unknowable, who's to say that they obey the normal laws of physics that we abide by?
I guess that's true. And I guess to complicate it even more, with all the drones and crap in the sky now, and like Starlink's always launching satellites, like there's a lot of crap just floating around up there all the time now. So even if I see something moving in the sky at night, I'm not going to assume it's an alien. I'm just like, okay, it's a plane of some sort. There's a military base not that far. So it's like maybe they're, I don't know, testing some new thing, which is what Area 51, a lot of people were like, it's not an alien. It's just like a government, it's a secret government program. So like they're testing new unseen aerial vehicles or whatever. So you don't know what it is yet. So you view it as an alien spaceship. It's a UFO to you, but you're just not in the know.
I just remember they always used to attribute pretty much every UFO thing to these like mysterious weather balloons. It's like, what the heck are you talking about?
That's Roswell. That's what Roswell is. Like, well, the big thing with Roswell is there was a crash in New Mexico, Roswell, New Mexico. And I think the official police report.
We should go there on our trip.
We should. But I think the official police report, and this is where it gets sketchy when you see this stuff that happens, and it happens all the time. The official government people on site were like, we recovered 2 bodies of unknown origin. And then like the next day, it's like, we redact that. That's not true. It's a weather balloon. And it's like, what? Like, how could these two people that are police officers say it's not even human that's recovered? And then the next day, oh, it was a weather balloon. It's a little sketchy.
Maybe they didn't have PR training.
I mean, yeah, it was like, what, the 40s? I think it was like 49 or something. So probably not. But still, it is an interesting question. Like, why don't we just see it all over the place now?
It is, because I came across this video on a related topic, which kind of gets into Foucault's Panopticon, where they were talking about Big Brother. People are really afraid of the government watching us, which makes sense, justifiably so. But people are really who is surveilling each other. Like, we are surveilling ourselves and each other. I mean, just think about, you can't go anywhere without being captured on camera. At the very least, you're going to be on a Ring doorbell. Maybe you're going to be on a drone. There's just like so much stuff that you can't even see, like those poll cams, license plate readers, and those have been very caught up in court, like for litigation and stuff, because people are like, you're just hyper surveilling us. So when you like take all that into account, it does kind of seem like we would have seen them. But seeing is not, I don't know, but then it goes back to what we talked about in our parable episode, like seeing and believing are not the same thing.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I guess on a slightly different topic, one thing that I did think was interesting is there's like again, smart science people, I guess. They were kind of like talking about, there's like the Drake equation, I think, where people tried to basically determine the amount of planets that could have life, which I think is an interesting thing to touch on relating to aliens, because growing up, I just remember it being like, we're the only ones out here. Like, we're very special. Snowflake, Earth, it has a lot of water. It's in like the perfect spot in the solar system. So we don't get melted by the sun, but we're not so far away that we're freezing cold icebox. And it was like, no other planet in our solar system has water, anything. And now it's like all the time, they're like, oh yeah, Mars has water. This planet has water. This planet has water. Like, it's just kind of interesting because growing up, it was like, yeah, we're the only ones out here, which is a bit of an isolating thought as a species, which it seems like humanity is grappling with. Like, why else are we obsessed with looking for external life? Like, why do we have SETI? Somebody somewhere was like, this is important. Like, we need to spend tax dollars to try and find aliens. But like, what is the urge for that? Why?
I don't know. I mean, I've wondered that about space. There's no reason that we need to be going into space at all, ever. Like, there's no logistical reason. It's not like we need to go get something, or I don't know. Like, it's just human exploration.
Well, I mean, humans do. It's kind of, yeah, like there's something that pushes us to look around and ask why, or like look at the sky. Like, that would be cool to go up there instead of being a dog where it's just like, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. Like, humans will look around like, what else can we do?
But from a spiritual perspective, that's a very unhealthy mentality, because you're always looking for something. A, it's external, and B, there's always another thing on the horizon to be achieved or gotten. For me, I don't really, I mean, obviously I was obsessed with aliens when I was younger, but now, like, I never think about them. I would not say I'm like particularly intrigued by them anymore. And for me, I don't really find it isolating if we are the only species. If we're the only intelligent life to ever have existed anywhere in any of the galaxies, I don't know that that really matters.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't. I mean, if anything, it makes it more like, don't mess it up from like a humanity standpoint. Like, specifically thinking of the great filter again, like, don't just nuke yourselves into oblivion. Like, you got pretty far. It's very difficult to get to where you're at, like, as a society.
I don't think that would change anything, knowing that, though.
I mean, it probably wouldn't, but I don't know. I mean, another thing that I did want to talk about, though, is basically they do talk about, like, there's a lot of risk involved in it, right? Like, sending stuff out there. into the ether. You don't know what's going to come back. So it's kind of, I guess it's like kind of grappling with mortality in some ways, because like you could die by doing this, right? Like even going into space is dangerous. Like people die doing that, specifically sending signals and stuff. Like you don't know what's going to pick up the other end of that line, which is kind of a scary thought.
But isn't that a fear-based reality?
It is a fear-based reality,
which is to say that if you send a signal out into the world, out into this deep space, there are two ways of looking at it. If you want to be very binary about it, there is someone will receive it in a positive way, or someone will receive it and there will be a negative repercussion or a negative consequence. Thus, the negative would be operating under fear-based reality.
That's true. I mean, that is true. And now that I'm thinking about it,
because scientifically, wouldn't that be a 50-50? I don't know. Like, I'm not good at statistics, but
no, I think you're good at statistics. I mean, they kind of talk about that in Contact a little too, because Matthew McConaughey doesn't want Jodie Foster to go, because he's like, you could literally just die. Like, we have no idea what this thing is. In the movie, they don't know what it is. They just build some alien thing, which is an absurd concept. Like, they spent more money than anything in the entire world to build this machine. And then Jodie Foster got selected, and he was like, do not go in this. Like, you're going to die. We have no idea what this thing is. But she was like, it's worth it to me. Like, I want to see what's there. It's kind of like transcending human limitation. The extreme sport athletes, like, there's just this, I don't know if hunger is the right word, but certain people specifically have the drive, the need to know, where there's no risk. That's like their life is an expendable thing for science. I think she even said, like, it's one life to find out if aliens exist. That's worth it to me, which is like an interesting argument.
And that's the general premise in Project Hail Mary. It's the last chance, right? The Project Hail Mary. But also they decimate the entire Earth, like its whole ecosystem. They decimate it in order to get themselves the capacity to build this ship. So they've basically they've just like ruined everything, expended every resource towards this ship, which is their last chance, because if it doesn't work, they're going to die anyway, right? But it's an interesting thought process. So like when you say in Contact, well, why did they just build this and money is no object? It seems absurd, but that is how it would be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of movies that deal with aliens as humans, because it's kind of like playing with time travel, which I think is another interesting thing for aliens, because, I mean, even Interstellar, there's not aliens, but like Matthew McConaughey, also in another alien movie. Wow, that guy's everywhere. But in Interstellar, he like goes so far away, or he goes to some planet where gravity's messed up. So then like he's young, but everybody else is old. But somehow he's like still able to communicate and stuff. Like, it's kind of interesting where space gets weird because time gets really messed up. Where, yeah, like to your point, we could send a signal out today. It doesn't even reach this star that aliens do live on for 200 million light years. By the time it gets there, we won't even exist anymore anyways, potentially, which is also just kind of a weird thought.
Yeah, like in Project Hail Mary, he's trying to get to this like very far away star. So they actually put 3 people to sleep, kind of cryogenically, I guess, but 2 of them die because it's like very taxing on the body. And so this one guy wakes up and he's alone and he remembers nothing. He has like amnesia. Basically, I want to say it's like 3 years passed on Earth, which equates to like 30 years. No, it's like 3 years for him, but 30 years have passed on Earth or something absurd. And it kind of boggles the mind, and it's unfathomable, and it makes sense that it's unfathomable because we're here, right, on Earth. Our brains were not formed to conceive that because it's not a necessary part of our survival.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. And I think one thing I did see was about the idea of not relating to the Great Filter, but like alien life. What if, I mean, from a spiritual perspective now, we talk about like the transcendent dimension within, and consciousness isn't, it's not a thing you can point to. It doesn't exist like anywhere in my body. They can't point to consciousness in the human body, right? So who's to say that like you aren't still alive, but you're just like an ethereal conscious thing? Like that would be an alien to us, I guess, but it's not necessarily alien. But I guess all that to say, do you think there's anything there relating to ancient civilizations and things interpreting gods as aliens? Like the way ancient alien people talk about it. I guess, do you believe in that at all? Is there a chance that they saw aliens, but they just didn't know what they were, so they called them angels?
I mean, what do you mean by ancient alien people? Like, who are you referring to?
Well, like that TV show, Eric von Däniken, and
Never
then
really watched that.
there's like that Giorgio Tsoukalos guy who's got like crazy hair, and he's like, aliens! That guy.
Like, I don't know. That show always bored me. They're just talking about crop circles all the time.
Not really. I like that show. I will say I was a pretty big Ancient Aliens fan, but they made way too many seasons. They started beating a dead horse again and again. Like, we get it, you know?
So what your question was, is it possible that ancient people came into contact with an alien and labeled it as a god?
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, not even just for I think that's true for really any religion. It could be an explanation. It's how you explain unexplainable phenomena. Often people do that through religion or spirituality, which I think you said earlier. So I definitely don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
I just remember, like, when I was younger, when I first was exposed to, like, that Ancient Alien show, it kind of did blow my mind a little to even think of, because it's just reframing something that already happened. Like, there's hieroglyphs and stuff of ships, that's what they would call it, or palaces in the sky, and they're just reinterpreting it now. Like, that's not a palace, that's a ship. It's just kind of a cool perspective, I guess. Like,
Well, it makes you wonder if they even know what they're doing in terms of interpreting it, because it's just after a certain amount of time has passed, you lose so much in terms of context, specifically cultural context. There's nobody that's going to get that in this day and age. So how do you know if you're actually translating it correctly? You do not, right? And the Rosetta Stone hasn't ever been translated, right?
I don't know anything about the Rosetta Stone. I mean, I will say the other thing relating to ancient aliens in my mind has to do with, it's like the mythos. Like, humans are always seeing things in the sky, which I think is kind of an interesting thought, because they wouldn't have had planes. So what else could have been in the sky? Like, it is documented they saw something. So like, what is it then? And then I guess to our point earlier about time getting broken once you start going like intergalactically to other planets, maybe aliens did visit 5,000 years ago, but why would they come back? Like, it's really far, so maybe they'll come back in another 5,000 years. Will we even be here then, though? Who knows? Like, we could, which I think is kind of an interesting thought, too.
I agree.
So I think we're getting about near ready to wrap up, unless you've got anything else.
No, I mean, you said something that reminded me of something, but now I can't. I guess the question is, did anyone actually ever see anything in the sky? Because it could also be true. People just made stuff up. Or there's always been creative people. People like to fabricate something to embellish their point, and then someone takes it literally and they're like, oh yeah, like somebody actually descended from the sky. Like, what? I think we have this tendency to perceive previous humans as like just completely different than us. And they are in some ways, but I feel like some of these human tendencies are not that far removed.
Yeah, like human nature is what you're getting at. Yeah, like people are always going to lie or do something. Yeah, I mean, that's a great, I mean, yeah, like, okay, I stole something and it's like 5,000 BC. It's like, well, I didn't steal it. The aliens did it. Or I don't know, I got kidnapped by aliens. I don't know where I was.
Well, I mean, just think about like some of the parables we've talked about in our, like the Good Samaritan. If in like 10,000 years somebody reads that, are they going to take it literally and be like, did this actually happen? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Well, I guess for the weekly wisdom, it's a short one. And it comes from the X-Files. The classic Fox Mulder phrase, I want to believe. I feel like it's a cool topic. I kind of want to believe in aliens. I don't know if I do though anymore anyways. I feel like at this point I'm more apt to chalk it up to, I don't know. I'm not sure what I would chalk it up to, but
I think I still do believe in them, but in a sort of wondering, passing curiosity. I don't feel the need to really ever know for sure. It's not like a driving question. It doesn't keep me up at night.
yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't keep me up at night, but I mean, it would be interesting, I guess, if we did find aliens in our lifetime. That would be an interesting.
Us personally, or somebody finds them.
I mean, just
That's not us.
humanity, like with how fast we've been like evolving technologically. Like, if there are aliens, it seems like we've got to be finding them soon, right?
Well, I mean, and isn't so in Arrival, the movie Arrival, which is based on a short story by Ted Chiang. So, like all these like weird rocks or whatever like appear around the world, and thus it becomes a world crisis and all the countries have to work together. It's possible that that is the only thing that could keep us from going off the event horizon into extinction, basically, is us having something to rally behind. And that's the only thing that I can think of that would actually be an effective motivating force.
So I know we are trying to wrap up, but that does make me think again. So Jacques Vallée, when I was reading about that guy, one of the things he warned is to be aware of projecting like aliens as some savior. Like, oh, we're doomed. The aliens will come in and save us. He was like, no, like, do not surrender your autonomy and agency to like things out of your control, which I thought was interesting because it kind of is, yeah, like there's two ways it could go, right? Either the aliens are here and they're evil, so we have to band together to defeat them, or the aliens are here, they can rescue us. But then you're giving a lot of faith and trust in this
And
thing you've never
I
met.
don't think it'll be like that if it were to happen. It's going to be a lot more nuanced. And that's partly why I'm enjoying the Octavia Butler trilogy, is because it's not a clear, like at first she thinks that they're like saviors, but then it becomes more of a captor dynamic. So it can be both, and it doesn't have to be either or.
I mean, yeah.
Nobody's just like, I don't think an alien's just going to come be benevolent out of the goodness of their heart. Like they're going to need or want something. To your point, it's far. Like they've given up something to come here. They're going to want something in return, and it may not be a big deal to us at the time, but it could become a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, aliens are definitely a popular thing. Like there's a million. The more I'm sitting here thinking about it, there's so many movies about aliens. Like it's definitely in the zeitgeist. So we'll see.
Your favorite word, the zeitgeist.
Okay, I won't use that word anymore then. Well, I think that's probably a good wrap it. I want to believe. What about you?
I do believe.
Ooh. Deuces.
See ya.